All right. Well, welcome everyone to our summer book club. I am very excited to be sharing with you about a book that I have had on my shelf since like 2017. It was published, I think, in maybe 2016, but in 2018, I actually had the privilege of inviting Leanna Tankersley to Carlsbad. I knew she was an author who lived in San Diego, and so I asked her to come to our Carlsbad retreat when we were having a women's retreat there, and talk about what it means to be and live a brazen life. And the subtitle of the book is The Courage to Find the You That's Been Hiding. So I just think that that is pretty darn cool, that it's still relevant now, 6 years later, for a lot of our lives, especially as I dive into this ministry and work with women more and more, and my own healing after losing my mom to cancer in November of 2022. A quick bio about me in case somebody's watching this on replay and wants to know a little bit about my story. I'm a teacher by trade. In fact, I just got out of the swimming pool. I happen to be teaching swimming lessons this summer. In 2007, we were introduced to the beautiful world of Young Living essential oils and health products. And I started using the products for myself and my family, and eventually decided to leave my teaching career and work as a health and business coach with our family's team, Living Well Now. And that afforded me the time and opportunity to pour into some other passions that I have. And so now I'm an entrepreneur who hosts retreats in California, as well as offers online connection with folks, with women in particular, as they are going through life's transitions. You can find more about me on my website at angelalehman.com. I'm going to begin tonight's book study, book club kind of overview, and we are going to do some interaction in the chat, but I'm going to start with some of the things that I left off from last time, which was I introduced the work of Brene Brown from The Gifts of Imperfection. That was one of her earliest research books that she published after her video, her TED Talk went viral about how do we embrace a life that is wholehearted living, even while we are imperfect in and of ourselves. And I spoke a little bit about this last month when we discussed The Dance of Fear by Dr. Harriet Lerner, because I think Brene's work just kind of continues on sort of that earlier work of Dr. Lerner and the earlier work still from other renowned psychotherapists, even though Brene Brown, Dr. Brown, is a research scientist. I think there's some overlap in what results she's finding to what psychotherapists are finding as well. And that is when we want to live more fulfilled, when we choose a life that is more fulfilling to our soul, to our whole body, mind, and spirit, we choose one that is filled with courage, compassion, and connection. And we're able to cultivate authenticity while letting go of what people think. And I think that continues to be an ongoing challenge for a lot of women, especially those of us in midlife. And I really encouraged everyone at that point last month to go check out the list by Brene Brown in how to live wholeheartedly and how to cultivate certain traits and characteristics that will allow you to live a more fulfilling life. And so I linked that into the Habits for Wellbeing. I linked that into the Soul Care Sanctuary that many of you are part of, and some of you may be thinking about joining so that you can easily access resources like that. So one quote that really stood out to me from the first half of Brazen, because we're going to finish the rest of the conversation on August 1st, is this part. There is no perfect time to be courageous. Our emergence doesn't happen when we are at our most brave. It often happens when we are at our most bruised. So if you're waiting for the perfect time to take courage or to take the next step on a risky endeavor, it's important to note this, that sometimes out of our greatest pain comes our greatest opportunity to serve others. And I think that's been true for myself, and I'll share more about that as we get into tonight's topic of the first half of Brazen. But first, the first section of Leanna's book is about receiving and how do we receive our identity. And she says in the beginning of the book, she writes about considering your most essential identity. And if you don't have a notepad, I would suggest you write this down. She says, how have you lost sight of who you really are? Like, what are the distracting factors? Voices around you, life path, overwhelming feelings, kind of paralyzation of action. And she says, if you are listening to your soul voice more regularly, you may consider how you allow for becoming and expanding. And you've heard me say, if you've worked with me for very long, you've heard me say it's not necessarily just about who we are in this moment or who we were, but who we are becoming and how the present moment informs who we are becoming. And how do you return to what God has put in your hands so that it may be shared more widely? And so, if you did read the book and you are commenting along with me, I would love to know if there was a chapter that resonated most with you as I dive in on some of the big picture topics, or a page number. I have my copy here, so we can look that up together if you want to sort of give some examples from different page numbers that were really empowering to you. But I also know sometimes we don't prioritize reading for ourselves. And so I'll give some overview tonight that will hopefully help you embrace the topic a little more clearly. All right. So so part of what stood out to me in that idea of reclaiming our voice, and using our soul voice, like to really listen to our innermost soul. She talked about the idea of soul bullies. And soul bullies are the voices in your head that talk you out of the things that you want to be doing or that you desire or that you long for. And she said, if we take just 20 minutes of soul time together, um, by ourselves, like sit down with a journal, sit down with a pen, and take 20 minutes that we set on our clocks, we can find our soul voice again and begin to respond back to the soul bullies, as she calls them. And she said, during that 20 minutes of soul time, remember to find a quiet place. Decide you will not judge what emerges and simply sit and take notes for your soul. Are you carrying a desire, a longing, or a hope? And what angst are you carrying? What are the soul bullies saying to you? And what is your soul voice saying to you? So the picture that I chose for this slide is about a little girl who's getting teased and taunted, right? And so what is the soul bully? How is the soul bully teasing and taunting you? And how are you, a frustrated or sad or concerned person who is done with that, allowing that to happen? She said sometimes the soul bullies will say, who do you think you are? And for example, the soul bully would say, how dare you let anyone see your holy and holy, HOLEY, humanity. This list is on page, oh, it's so great. Where is it? I was going to point it out and I didn't write down where it was. The soul bully says right away, it's like in the first chapter. Page 19, I actually had it dog-eared. On page 19, how dare you dabble? How dare you speak up? How dare you go big? How dare you trust your perceptions? How dare you learn the hard way? How dare you announce your arrival? Or how dare you feel fabulous in your own skin? Those are what the soul bullies are telling you. And so what if you identify what you're hearing, and we do this when we do Aroma Freedom together, when you identify those soul bully voices, and write them down, you're taking captive those thoughts that are holding you stuck. And some of those negative voices may need to be cleared out with an aroma freedom process, but they can also be addressed and just acknowledged. And that might take the sting out of them and allow you to emerge stronger than when you went in. She also mentioned at the end of that chapter, um, for um, for you to really consider, um, and we've talked about this before, the shame, anxiety, and fear pieces from our summer theme in our book club. How are you refusing somebody to tell you what you should be doing, whether you're pleasing someone else, whether you're comparing yourself to someone else, being perfect, if you're concerned about what other people think? And that goes back to that Brene Brown slide. If we're not being effective enough or productive enough, if we're having failure or doubt about our abilities, those are all the things that those are including putting everyone else's needs before your own. So for those of you who haven't read the book and you're kind of lamenting, like, I just haven't remembered to pick it up, or it's been hard to prioritize with everything going on, the soul bullies are keeping you from the good work of being connected to who you are and who God has created you to be. I thought this was a great picture, a great video to show, because the second chapter is called "Emerge from the Beige." And those of us who live in California and Arizona, we're very familiar with bougainvillea. And bougainvillea are these beautiful, bright pink flowers that you see on the screen in front of you. And this is the flower that she um, found to be very refreshing when she was living in the Middle East. And so when she came back to San Diego and realized those pops of color were still available to her, she just really has held on to the bougainvillea pink, the magenta pink color, as her brazen color, which is why the book is in a similar color to that bougainvillea that you see on the screen in front of you. And so as you're reading the book, she also invites the reader to start to put together a brazen board. And when we talked in our soul circle, or our care circle, earlier this week, some of the women said that they were making notes about things that they wanted to write on their brazen board, or they wanted to include on their brazen board, in lieu of actually making it at the moment. So I'm curious, and I'm just going to leave some time available in the chat. If you were to answer the question, what is the color of your soul, or what she calls your created center, or I say your divine center? The other question she said is, what color do you associate with freedom? And what is the color you think of when you think of the word alive? And are those the same colors, or are they different colors? So I'm just curious if there's a color that really pops for you. So Christina wrote in turquoise is the color that she thinks of, the color of her soul. I've always been attracted to purple. You'll see purple in a lot of what I'm doing tonight, even sunshine, yellow, alive, lilac is another one. Yes, Lucinda, that lavenderish lilac color I think is really beautiful as well. And why are you drawn to the color? What is it about that color that kind of draws you in? And I think it's really interesting because I'm talking about purple, but I started to make a brazen board on Pinterest, that I'm going to share in the Care Circle thread on Heartbeat. And and my colors were golds and rich yellows, actually, which I thought was so funny because it is a very, like, the sunrises and sunsets. And I started making that in 2018. Have always been really powerful to me. And now I've toned down into sort of a softer color, even though tonight, goodness, I'm actually kind of wearing one of those sort of rusty colors. Yeah, the color is very relaxing to you, Lucinda. Or green grass. The color of bright grass is the green, is the color of freedom to Christina. So if you take nothing else away from tonight, be thinking about that, especially if you live in a deserty place or a summery place where they haven't gotten a lot of rain. What colors sort of catch your eye? What sort of vibrancy is available to you? And when we come back and talk again at the end of August, or I'm sorry, at the beginning of August, we can definitely take into account what those colors are about who you are and what they're creating in you. Yeah, long, big green expanses as far as you can see, Christina adds. And that sun is warming, it's vibrant, and it has high energy. I'm really glad for those words to go along with that. Thank you, Christina. We've all probably heard the story of the fishermen in the book of Luke. One of the stories is that the fishermen were fishing all night and they hadn't caught a thing, and they came in very disappointed um, that they hadn't returned any fish. These were before they were disciples of Jesus, um, and so Jesus instructed them to cast their boats on the other side. And I really appreciated Leanna's conversation about that. I would highly recommend going back and reading that. If you're just kind of piecemealing through the book and not really reading it start to finish, that would be on page 53. 52, 51, kind of the chapter 6 is sort of where this lies. And she gives this the adage, the scripture from Jesus says, keep casting your nets, like do not stop. And as soon as they obeyed and they put their nets on the other side of the boat, they received a bounty of fish. And so she said this is still a relevant parable for us in our lives as well. The word keep, she says, means to continue showing up bravely. Casting means offering. Your means it belongs to no one else. And your nets are what God has put in your hands or what you've become responsible for. So continue showing up bravely and offering what no one else can do, what God has put in your hands. And so I think about those of you who are parents, step parents, daughters, sisters, mothers, people who are caregivers, people who are in a business for themselves or with others, where they have a special niche or area that they're serving. But to continue showing up bravely and offering what no one else is staying true to who you are. So, what does it look like as you approach a life of fulfillment and live a brazen life to keep casting your nets? And how do you assess what it is you believe in and cherish and want to be part of? And how are you prioritizing that with your time? We can be so exhausted at the end of a day that we forget just what a gift it is to have this business or this other hobby or this service that we do or this ministry that we offer that really is fulfilling in a lot of different ways. So I love, love, love what it means to keep casting our nets or your nets. And she offers her own variation of Galatians. So this is also from the Bible about harvesting a good crop when we don't give up or quit. So even though it feels discouraging, the process of whatever it is we're working on, our life story, our legacy, our ability to see through a family vision, those kinds of things, to offer out to our kids what they need and what we need in the course of life. That is a direct kind of lesson for us as women to keep casting our nets. Another important, and again, I'm only going through chapters 1 through 19 tonight. So this is a really brief overview. I'm trying to give you places in the book that you can go back to if you have the book and you want to read more about it or start doing it this month, because our next call will be August 1st. But she said, we also start to look at life through our own lens, and we realize that our perspective keeps us from deeper connection and authenticity with ourselves, with others, and even with our divine creator. And for me, that I call that God. But what are there ways that you can see yourself? Like, which one of these do you think needs the most work in your life to really evaluate? Have you thought about your own longings or dreams in a while? Have you considered the gift of your body, or is it a touchy subject for you right now? Do you have an opinion or a perspective about who God is to you, or what your failures mean, who we are, what our worth is, and what our relevance is as well? We can evaluate our perspective in each of these areas. And at the end of our call tonight, remember, we're going to do just a quick aroma boost with our lavender, frankincense, and stress away. And the reminder in that is to really take stock of what one of these kinds of perspective places is hindering us. Um, because each of the chapters in the first part of the book kind of deal with each of these things, what we've just discussed. So, what is it that's most sort of like a nail in your shoe, or a thorn in your side, that without this being solved, it makes everything else even harder? So, what is it about your perspective that needs a shift, that requires a shift? All right, let's look at, oops, I picked up the wrong page. Let's look at another quote. This is from page 62. She says, I don't think God is asking us to suppress or get over our dreams. And I don't think God wants us to miss out on the sacred ground we are standing on either. Is this a tension in your own life to just give up on your dreams because this other thing is more important, or because you are on sacred ground? Or is there a way to hold your longings in one hand, what you dream of having someday, with your current reality? How do you find ways to honor both? And this is one of those conversational topics that I'm just curious if you've thought about that in a while, um, if you've been able to sort of embrace the reality of what is with the dream of what is to come. How do you live in that tension before it's happened, but while you're waiting? Can you keep dreaming while you're stuck in the place that you're in? And is there a way to just sort of keep hacking at your goal or your dream little by little, so that you can hold on to the hope that you have of what that will be for you? She also said, and this is something that I'd like you to respond to in the chat. She said, God is waiting for us in the things that we love. So, what are 20 things that you love? We just talked about colors that really stand out to you. Name 4 or 5 things right off the top of your head that you love with your whole being. God is waiting for us in the things that we love. I'd love to see your responses. Yeah, Lucinda's got a good point about being a juggler that finds balance to all the things that are involved. There is an element of that women come about to pretty naturally in multitasking. Hmm. Lucinda named Lizzie, Jensen, Lindsay, Perry, and Robert. Those are her kiddos. And her grandson, Jensen. So special. Yeah. And when you think about those 5 people, you think about how God is waiting for you in those things that we love. For me, puppies, sunsets, air conditioning, right? Those are top 3. I mean, not top 3, but those are the 3 things off the top of my head. Green tea from Starbucks. Those are some things that I love. God is waiting for me in the things that I love. So, how do I find the beauty of a sunset in watching the sun go down or a sunrise? How do I embrace the moments that I get to spend with puppies because I'm not bringing any of them home, and recognize their playfulness for part of who I am and my playfulness? How do I see God in the green tea from Starbucks that I get to share with a friend once in a while, or that nourishes me while I'm driving long distances? Essential oils are something that I love. I love how the smell transports me to another time and another place. Christina writes in beautiful music, beautiful skies, the gentle mountains of Vermont, singing and smelling beautiful roses. And we've talked about some of these things over the course of the last 6 months in some of the work that we've done together around spiritual gifts and spiritual habits, because we've talked about awe and wonder and nature and what can change in an instant if we just are willing to risk going outside in the heat or in the snow, or in recognizing God in every earthly thing and how it connects us more deeply to our souls and to who God is. The next section she talks about is, oops, I went the wrong way, is to reclaim your voice. And this is the end of the chapter, so like 11 through 19. And reclaiming your voice is the second section. And I highly recommend you can just jump to that section if you're interested in this topic more. This section focuses on reclaiming our voices, to speak up for the voiceless, speaking up for ourselves, for the truth. And sometimes we need a reminder. We need a reminder that we are not taking up too much space. We have every right, just as our brothers and sisters do to every side of us, to speak up and share. And so so um, when we are aware of instances that we are not speaking up, sometimes we can walk away from those experiences and feel really sad. And so, yes, Erica, to your point, kids, grandkids, beach, the sound of waves crashing, those sorts of interactions that we get to have remind us of what God is calling us to, and how we are called beyond our comfort zone sometimes in order to say the things that need to be said, even if they're difficult, even if we feel scared, even if we know it's going to change our lives. We have an innate right to reclaim our voice. She mentioned this quote, and I thought this was just so beautiful. I must be a mermaid. I have no fear of depth and a great fear of shallow living. So if you think about that one again, I must be a mermaid. I have no fear of depths and a great fear of shallow living. So all of you have made a decision to really plug into those places in your heart that call you forward. A small voice maybe spoke to you and said, I need this in my life. I choose to have more of this in my life. And so now you're getting practice at using your voice and saying things like, I will no longer do X, Y, or Z. Or to say, I'm going to start doing this. I am beginning this. We talk about that when we set our affirmations for aroma freedom, truly. Sorry, I do not hydrate well enough when I'm in the pool, so I get a little bit dried out. Leanna tells a story in the beginning of chapter 11 about her daughter who has always been very, very beautiful and captivating, long blonde hair, tall. And one time she was at a playground and some men were inappropriately, well, she just got a weird feeling about them asking to take the little girl's picture. And so she told them no, and she screamed at them to leave her daughter and her alone. And they thought, she had nonverbal responses from them that made her know that they didn't like that they'd been told no. But she said, I will no longer allow this to happen as a parent, as a mother, as a woman. I'm gonna make note of these opportunities to say no and to state some boundaries that are really, really important. So are there any lies that you're telling yourself and others? Any lies that you need to rectify for yourself? And then what are three truths you'd like to be sharing with people in your world? So are there three lies that you're telling yourself, or any lies, or are there any truths that you'd rather be sharing with people in your world? What can you do about it to use your voice to share what feels important to share? I know I'm throwing a lot at you in a short amount of time. Let me go on to this next quote. These are all good places if you go back and watch this, or if you're watching this on YouTube, to hit pause and just give some journaling time to yourself, maybe during your soul time, your soul voice time, your 20 minutes of journaling. She says, we start by talking to God about the deeper yes of our lives, asking God to help us discover or rediscover the pursuits and people that are worth protecting our time and energy for. And then we tell the truth when we figure that out, which is so much harder, she says, than she imagined. But she said, you know what's harder than telling the truth? Looking back and realizing you never quite had the time to really live. And I thought this is totally a picture of, it's not me, but it could have been. Last year I was in the Rocky Mountain National Park with my dad, and it was just a wonderful, present time moment for me. And I know that, so many people are waiting for the right time in their lives to kind of take on a new opportunity, or to say yes to a new job, or to a new pursuit or person, right? That's worth protecting our time and energy for. I think that's really key to this, because it doesn't mean we just willy nilly give away our time and our energy. We really are looking for, and what Brazen is asking us to do is to say enough with the anxiety and fear and the shame that we've held on to and we studied the last 2 months. Now, what we're doing is we're embracing this new opportunity to live and not wish someday that we never had the time to do it. So I really, really love, um, really love this idea of calling yourself forward, or being called forward into the next part of your life. Christina says, I will no longer minimize my skill sets and what gifts you have to share. You are casting your nets, Christina. Good. I will begin to and confidently speak up when I see or hear a problem. And if you can solve it for someone, or if there's a way that that you've been asked to intervene in a situation as well, that's a good place to do that. And that's the dog telling me that he's ready to go out. Speaking of speaking up, hold on just a second. So at the end of this part of the book club chat tonight, um, she starts to write. Leanna writes about creating boundaries in your life that protects your deeper yes. So, what is a deeper yes that you'd like to protect in your own life, and what might it be like for you to disappoint someone in order to create margin in your life for your yes? So, is there a place where you are right now kind of faced with a decision, perhaps faced with a decision in your life about something better for you, a deeper yes in your life that's going to make it um, better, that's going to allow you more freedom, it's going to allow you more joy, it's going to allow you more of the feelings that you choose to feel and less of the feelings that you don't want to feel. And the dog is back. Hi. You just wanted to have the freedom to come and go. Speaking of, so again, the freedom in that, right? But how can you create boundaries so that you get to do the things that you want to do instead of having to do the things that that are not for you? And we talked. Some of us were on the Care Circle call this week, and maybe this is part of that. As we're making, some of us are going on a trip next week at the same time in Salt Lake City. Some of us are taking other vacations or traveling or changing jobs and that kind of thing. Are there places that even beyond what you're doing right now that's calling you forward to a deeper yes in your life? And how can you start to take action, speak up for yourself, question what's happening, maybe just listen to what somebody's sharing with you, start to think for yourself and make your own decisions, and also within that be accountable for your own actions. There's courage in those things as well. So, to finish tonight, I wanted to tell you or teach you about the welcoming prayer. And the welcoming prayer is by Father Thomas Keating. And it's one that I will post in the book club thread in Heartbeat, so you can actually pull it down later if you want to print it off or have it on your phone. It's a really great way to sort of center yourself. Maybe you do it in the morning. It's definitely about letting go, because we do want to accept. Yes, we want to keep dreaming, and that's what living brazen is all about, but we also want to accept the current reality of our life, and we want to show God, and we want to show ourselves that we can accept what comes our way and invite God into the mess as well. And when we bring needs and desires and thoughts, emotions, and our circumstances, and not fighting those things, but instead rolling with them, then we can find a better source of energy and sustenance than if we were just to try to kind of white knuckle it to the finish line. Does that make sense? So, for example, if you're familiar with whitewater rafting, you can go down a whitewater rafting trip, kind of holding on, gripping on, with all your might, and try not to fall in. But if you let yourself roll with the current, and you learn to be kind of fluid with the river, you will find that you'll fall in less often. So I think about that with one of my swimmers. He really is scared to go underwater, and so he fights every time when we are close, when we have our mouths in the water blowing bubbles. He's got his arms stretched tight because he doesn't want to take any risk of putting his head in the water. So the welcoming prayer reminds us to let go, and to open to what God has in mind for us. So if this resonates with your religion, with your faith, with your idea of faith, I definitely recommend printing it or putting it on in your phone so you can look at it later. I welcome everything that comes to me today because I know it's for my healing. I welcome all thoughts, feelings, emotions, persons, situations, and conditions. I let go of my desire for power and control. I let go of my desire for affection, esteem, approval, and pleasure. I let go of my desire for survival and security. I let go of my desire to change any situation, condition, person, or myself. I open to the love and presence of God and God's action within. So, so allowing, even though we want and desire change, allowing it to be created in us rather than us, like I said, forcing it on our own. Just thought that was really, really beautiful to share. Hold on just a second. Dog doesn't hear anymore. So have you heard me yelling out? It's because the dog doesn't hear anymore. So I had to scare him and clap for him because he was getting into the trash in my stepson's room. So he was on the hunt for a scavenged meal. All right. So what is next? So we will have, on July 15th, we will have our retreat information call. That's coming up on Monday night. So if you're interested in attending the retreat, I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. That call will be Monday night at 6 o'clock or 6:30, maybe 6, um, or Pacific time, Mountain Standard Time. That's what we're on here in Arizona. July 22nd will be our next care circle. And then July 25th will be our Aroma Freedom session for the month of July. And then we'll have, like I said, our next meeting of the book club will be on August 1st, and we'll finish the rest of the book and start to, we'll set a plan for creating brazen boards through Pinterest or on Canva, depending on some sort of technology that works for you. We'll do that during one of our care circles in August as well. So we are choosing to read these books this summer to just kind of keep our mind centered on good soul care, soul health. That's one of the things that is a big priority of mine. And compassionate art, what I offer out of that then is the Compassionate Women's Fall Retreat. And so this is the last one of its kind. I will have grief retreats in the future, but I'm also going to have other topics that I bring to retreats in 2025 and 2026. I'm planning 2 years in advance with my retreat schedule because I want to make sure people can prioritize. This may be that deeper yes that you are looking for a sign of something that needs to shift in your life. And so coming to a retreat with me and in Carlsbad, it would be a huge honor for me, but also I think very life-changing for you as well. Because we do gather together, we do take quiet time together, as well as learning time together, visioning time. And the topic this month or this year on October 24th through the 27th will be Beyond Deep Grief. So what does it look like when grief just sort of hangs on, even when something, people have told us it's been enough time or it's been long enough that we are feeling our grief. What does it look like to still embrace the grieving self as well as integrate it into the future? All right, for those of you who can stay on, I'm going to offer just a little bit of an aroma boost. So we'll take a clarity session at this time. You're going to want to shift gears just a little bit. We're not going to talk about the book anymore. If you have thoughts, I invite you to write them in the book club chat in Heartbeat app, or you can send me a message. I'm going to send this out, this recording out via email tomorrow. So if you're watching the recording, I really appreciate that, as well as just want to interact with you. So let me know what you thought about or what you're thinking about with the book. I've had really good responses to Leanna's book, first when she first came and spoke to the women's retreat, and also now that people are reading it again, they just really resonate with a lot of what she's saying. But we'll finish up the chapters 20 through 40 when we meet again on August 1st. All right, so getting clear around your relationships, your family, maybe some of the things that we talked about tonight, maybe some of the negative voices that the soul bullies are throwing out at you. But just take a note of what it is that you want to bring about in your life for this coming month when it comes to your soul care or to your way of growing and changing and shifting and living. What are the things that you most desire in your life? And make a note for those things as well. Okay. And then we're going to use a process called Aroma Freedom to help sort of center you into that goal. And this is a slow process. This is different than our Aroma Freedom. This is a short 10-step process to help you just sort of get clarity about what you need to do right away to impact that longer term goal that you have set for yourself. This was developed by Dr. Benjamin Purkis. Dr. Purkis just released his new book about aroma freedom, and also is offering free trainings through the month of August or through the month of July, I think. So if you're not on his mailing list, you can go to his group on Facebook, All About Aroma Freedom, and plug into what he's offering this month. Okay, so here's our aroma reset. So identify whatever situation it is that feels overwhelming, frustrating, or confusing to you. So again, it can be in any of those areas that we talked about tonight that feels especially troublesome to you. And then step two is to name a feeling, which is one word that describes how you feel about the situation. Oops. And you can use this if you can zoom in close enough on the feelings wheel. This is a good indicator of feeling. You can also use the How We Feel app. Is a free app that you can identify how you're feeling any given time at any given day, and get some clarity around what that feeling is. So perhaps you're feeling ashamed, you're feeling some of the fear that we talked about in the last couple of times of book club, or maybe even talking about these topics makes you feel uncomfortable. So you feel weak or foolish or embarrassed. And then locate that feeling in your body. Where are you feeling it? Is it a posture? Is it in your heart, your chest, your stomach? Identify the negative thought. So maybe that soul bully thought, you shouldn't do this. You aren't allowed to do this. You can't do that. And then take your essential oils. And if you have lavender, stress away, and frankincense, those are the three that we're using, but you can use just one by themselves. Put some in your hands and rub it together. Cup your hands over your nose and mouth. And then just breathe into the scent. So, like I said, if you just have lavender, breathe into the lavender. But all three together just smell really heavenly. And see if you're able to kind of take the sting or the stigma or the difficulty with the situation out of the situation, maybe be given some clearer steps for how to move forward. What do you need to do tonight before you rest to solve or to feel or to create a new reality for yourself? So it might be that there's an action, somebody that you need to call or text or communicate with. Mm. Hugs, Christina. It may be that the action is to just sit with the feelings, to give yourself grace for this moment, for this time. It may be that you want to write some things down, maybe some notes that you took tonight. You want to circle some things, connect to what you're thinking and feeling about. Maybe start to create a visual representation of your affirmation. Maybe the mermaid quote spoke to you like it spoke to me, and you find a graphic or you make a graphic that you really like about being a deep, not being afraid of the depths. But pick an oil, a different oil now, not stress away, frankincense, or lavender. Pick something that brings or evokes a feeling of power or joy. So peppermint is a great one. Joy is good. Believe is good. Transformation is good. But take a drop of oil and put it in your hands. I always like to rub it down my shoulders. I did geranium earlier when I was doing this. Geranium's really good for after being in the swimming pool. And then I thought it was great that Leanna actually talked about Amy Cuddy's research when it comes to power posing and how 2 minutes a day really helps us feel more confident and creates a deeper sense of um, connection to our selves. And it actually, they say, or Amy's research shows that there are hormone changes as well. So hands behind your head if you're sitting down. If you're standing up, maybe putting your hands on your hips or holding your arms above your head. And just say whatever it is that needs to be said aloud in your affirmation time. Use the oil as an anchor, use the power pose as a really simple way to increase your confidence in this moment. That's a whole other affirmation. Here are some examples of power poses that you can use as well. Oh, I love that, Christina. That's very uplifting. She says, I have an image of the Sound of Music scene where she's swirling and twirling her arms outstretched in the beautiful meadow in the Swiss Alps, fully free, who she's supposed to be. Yep. Yeah, and I think again, I don't want to leave you in the melted place. I'd like to leave you in the Maria place, right? Embracing all that life has to offer. So what do you need to reset? What do you need to quiet in the soul bully's voice that helps you embrace a new version of what you feel in this moment? And then you can always go to the book club part of our soul care sanctuary and tell us some of your feedback. What was it that really spoke to you tonight? What are you, as you open Brazen, maybe for the first time after buying it for the book club, what are you drawn to? What do you like about what she's writing? Maybe you're just going through and looking at the reflections that are at the back of each page. Or maybe you're starting just to go to or at the end of every chapter, there's a little note about what to do for your Brazen board. Maybe you're more action oriented than reader oriented. So you want to go in and start putting together what a Brazen board would look like or create a list of things that you would include on a Brazen board. But tell us about it. All of this work is more successful when we're accountable to other people doing the same work along with us and helping us celebrate and to see progress in who we are becoming. Our next monthly Aroma Freedom session will be July 25th. So if this was a good taste of what's to come and you want to dive in deeper with the oils that we're using and how this process works to sort of take away not the memory of how you felt this way before, but really take away the intensity of the hard feeling or the negative thought, then you can do the boost with me. If you text the word boost to my project broadcast number, that's my business text number, or come join the next monthly Aroma Freedom session. And of course, everyone is welcome to consider being part of the October retreat in Carlsbad. Definitely looking forward to that with some really great people. Thanks for being on tonight, everyone. Wherever you are this evening, may you be blessed and may you feel brazen in your life.